Hello, this is Tom, aka Jedio, here for the Star Frontiers Gamer, and we just filmed a issue of the front of the Fanzine Friday, and one of the articles in there was a Skylab style stations. In fact, the writer of that article had actually used images, which are public domain, from NASA to illustrate the article. And I was saying that. These style small platforms, Skylab International Space Station style of space stations, uh, would be should be more common in the frontier because they're very cheap and easy for them to put up in the sky. These are not like the big wheeled space stations that spin and have the simulated gravity. So it reminded me of a really great resource that I discovered back in the day when I was, buying Dragon magazines and such, of a space station deck plan that was actually written for Traveler. And it is the Space Gamer number 67. And it's number 67 Interdiction Station. Now, this was a personal favorite Space Gamer of myself. Because it had this game included in it, Orbit War. This is the advanced rules and designer notes. So to actually play Orbit War, you have to have 66. And I had both. And we played a lot of Orbit War for a little while, which was a lot of fun. And so I loved this particular issue because it had the advanced rules for Orbit War, and it had Can You Survive Interdiction Station. And I loved this adventure, and it was my first real exposure to Traveler. I had not seen the Traveler RPG rules up to this point, but I began to clue in that there was something called Traveler out there through Space Gamer. And this adventure is a Traveler adventure. Now, let me switch over to the PDF. So I'm showing you this here. This is the Internet Archive, and you can basically you can download the PDF from here, or you can purchase it like on eBay. But let's bring up the PDF and go to page 23 and just review this adventure. It is first and foremost a Traveler adventure, but it's centered on one of these small type space stations. And I liked it. And this was really, this article actually introduced me to things in science I didn't know anything about, like Lagrange points, because the space station is hidden at the Lagrange point behind the moon for this inhabitable world. Now, the actual setup for this, being a Traveler adventure, is that this is an inhabitable world that I guess when the Imperium expanded and then collapsed, this world was cut off from the rest of the Imperium, and it's the world goes through a lot of natural disasters, and so it really beat the human population here down, and they lost their history, which seemed a little odd to me. But in the course of time, they also adapted to the environment such that they're only 3 feet tall, this whole subspecies of human, and they don't know that they're not from this world, but their scientists are beginning to figure it out because their DNA don't really match anything else on their world and their environment. And they're just building themselves back to space flight. And so Interdiction Station was set up here that they were discovered, but the Imperium decided that that finding out that they were diminutive little, 3 foot tall hobbits, might harm this species emotionally, psychically, whatever. So they imposed a prime directive type rule that no one's allowed to contact them until they're ready to advance into space on their own, type of thing. So you have a kind of a ripoff of the Prime Directive from Star Trek worked into Traveler. And Interdiction Station's job is to monitor the situation and make sure nobody comes flying into this star system and interferes with the development of this planet. So that's the setup for this. Now, this does not work in Star Frontier's canned setting. If you've got a modified Star Frontier setting, well, then you would know best if it works for you in that setting. But the crux of the adventure actually is really cool and interesting, and I liked it a lot. And I was like, I totally want to use this in Star Frontiers. And that's so you have this situation with this with this space station, and it was pictured here. This is actually a really cool picture of it. And what happened is they're monitoring it, and an emergency alarm failed. And the crew of the station never knew that the life support was messing up, and their CO2 scrubbers were no longer scrubbing CO2 out of the atmosphere. And so the CO2 began to rise within the station. No alarms went off. Nobody knew. And they began to hallucinate and go cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, as the saying is, and do crazy stuff. And one person entered a airlock and cycled the outer door without a spacesuit on. And so he died, and it's a little messy in that airlock. And in fact, the airlock door cycled shut on his foot. He didn't get blown out the airlock. So he's still there. I think the station's medic programmed the autodoc to remove his internal organs. And so he's in the autodoc, still alive, but in a coma. His internal organs have been removed, but the autodoc is keeping him alive. His organs have been dumped in like a tray, so there's no putting them back. So I don't know what you're going to do, so that's going on with that. And then other people, other members of the crew have died in various ways and done various things on the station. And so as you come in, you're the relief crew coming in. You got to figure out what's going on. Why did people go crazy? Why is it smelling here? And you've got so much time before the CO2 starts getting to you. And so I always thought this was a really cool and interesting investigative type adventure. And so I loved this particular adventure. It's got some great artwork here. I love this picture. The shocked look looking into the window of the airlock. Here's the picture of the medic in the autodoc. Here's somebody in their Belbel helmet, because right away there's clues. Maybe something's wrong with the atmosphere. You've got to fix the life support, and you've got to fix some of these other problems on the station. And here he is accessing the computer, and data's been wiped from it, compounding your problems on the station. Another great image. I love this irising door here, and the guy stepping through a very sci-fi trope of the time, and very cool. I think we first saw the irising doors on the movie Alien, when they're going through the air vents. So and then here's the deck plan for Interdiction Station, and they've set this up. And of course, the climax of this adventure is initially you're dealing with the problems on the station. You're doing an investigation, but the station has drifted out of the Lagrange point position, and because the computers had problems, some of the programs are corrupted, so on and so forth. So you have all these problems you got to deal with the station. In the Traveler adventure, the inhabitants of the planet have a space program that's going forward. And they were just kind of going to do like what we did, launch things into orbit and orbit around and do scientific investigation like we did with the Mercury and the Gemini program. But they, when people are going crazy on Interdiction Station because of the CO2 levels, one of the crew members launched one of their probes towards the planet and didn't set the self-destruct on it. So it entered the atmosphere and crashed into a lake, and it's been recovered. And so it has set the scientific minds on the planet, we must investigate this. And they're sending a mission. And one of the things they want to investigate is they've got a few clues that tell them we should look at the backside of the moon. So they have now modified their first space mission to come to the backside of the moon, and the players have to make a decision concerning what do they do. Do they preserve the status quo of keeping knowledge of their existence from the native inhabitants of the inhabitable world? Do they first contact? You have notes in here for first contact with this culture. There's going to be a language issue, obviously, because of all the change and evolution that's gone on. So this was a really fascinating adventure because you had first contact, you had investigation, and broken things on the station, you got to fix them. And I just thought this was one of the coolest things I read at the time as a kid. And it's been a favorite of mine for years because I just loved this issue combined with issue 66 of Space Gamer so much. I've always thought fondly of it. So it was my first exposure to Traveler, even though I never saw the rules at that time. And I read it and ate it up. Even though it did not fit into the Star Frontiers milieu, I clearly thought that, geez, this is great material. Even if we get rid of the short humans, 3 foot tall, hobbit-like humans, venturing into space type of thing, and just space station with a problem. It could be a research station orbiting a gas giant, and there's a problem, and the corporation sent you out there. What's going on? Why haven't we heard from you? Why aren't we getting our reports? Type of thing. Great. You get the deck plan. You've got all the technical problems that have been written into it. Absolutely fantastic piece of Traveler material to rip off for Star Frontiers. And I think it's actually a pretty good Traveler adventure too. I like the idea of a first contact scenario. And so this has it all. So this is Space Gamer number 67. I highly recommend you look for it. Either pick it up on eBay or one of the other auction sites, or if you happen to see it in a used bookstore, or even download it for free out of the Internet Archive where it's available. Great adventure, great for use in your Star Frontiers game or any other sci-fi game you happen to be playing. Cepheus Engine, Traveler, Frontier Space, so on and so forth. So this is Tom for Star Frontiers Gamer with a quick adventure review of Space Gamer number 67's Interdiction Station. And I want to thank you for watching the video. Thanks to my subscribers. You guys are great. And if you've not subscribed, please do consider hitting the subscribe, like, and bell icon and help me build the channel. Well, until then, I will see you in the frontier.